The wedding photo on the mantelpiece mocked me with its faded cheerfulness. There I was, Claire Donovan, or rather Claire Donovan, soon to be ex Harrington, beaming in a ridiculously expensive dress, my hand clasped in Daniel's. He looked dashing, successful, the picture of the rising legal star he was back then. We both did, young, ambitious, with the world at our feet. Now, 10 years and 2 kids later, the world was crumbling beneath mine. Claire, Daniel had said, his voice carefully neutral, the same tone he used when cross-examining a hostile witness. We need to talk. Those were the words that started it all, the harbingers of the approaching storm. We were in our pristine kitchen, the one I'd meticulously designed, the granite countertops gleaming under the recessed lighting. It was a kitchen meant for family breakfasts and cozy dinners, not for delivering life-altering pronouncements. "What is it, Daniel?" I asked, my voice betraying a tremor of anxiety. He'd been distant lately, preoccupied, his phone glued to his hand even at the dinner table. I dismissed it as work stress, the pressure of his high-stakes legal battles. I was wrong. "I'm leaving," he said, the words blunt, devoid of emotion. "I want a divorce." The blood drained from my face, leaving me lightheaded. Leaving? But why? "I'm not happy, Claire," he said, the classic cliché delivered with the conviction of a closing argument. "I haven't been happy for a long time. But our family, the kids, they'll understand," he interrupted, his voice taking on a patronizing tone. "They'll adapt. Children are resilient." Easy for him to say. He was the one walking away, leaving the wreckage for me to clean up. "And what about me?" I asked, my voice trembling with a mix of anger and fear. "What about the years I sacrificed, the career I gave up for you, for our family?" He sighed, the sound heavy with impatience. "Claire, we've been over this. You knew what you were getting into when you agreed to be a stay-at-home mom. I provided for you, gave you a comfortable life. You can't expect me to support you indefinitely." "Support me?" I scoffed, the anger finally breaking through. "I wasn't a charity case, Daniel. I was your wife, your partner. I gave up my career, my ambitions, to support you, to raise our children. And now you're discarding me like yesterday's news?" "Don't be dramatic, Claire," he said, his voice hardening. "This isn't about blame. It's about moving on. I've met someone else. Someone who understands my ambitions, who can support me in the way I need." "Someone like Madeline Carlyle?" I asked, the name of the socialite, the daughter of a powerful judge, leaving a bitter taste in my mouth. He didn't deny it. He didn't need to. His silence was confirmation enough. The divorce proceedings were brutal. Daniel, with his high-powered lawyers and his influential connections, fought tooth and nail to minimize his financial obligations. He painted me as a lazy gold digger, a woman who had willingly sacrificed her career for a life of leisure. He argued that I had no marketable skills, that I was incapable of supporting myself, let alone our children. "She's been out of the workforce for years, Your Honor," his lawyer argued, his voice dripping with disdain. "She has no recent experience, no relevant skills. It's unreasonable to expect my client to provide her with an exorbitant alimony." I sat there listening to their arguments, my blood boiling with a mixture of anger and humiliation. They were twisting the narrative, erasing my sacrifices, portraying me as a parasite who had leached off Daniel's success. The judge, a stern-faced woman with eyes that seemed to see through me, ruled in Daniel's favor. The alimony was minimal, barely enough to cover the rent on a small apartment, let alone the expenses of raising 2 children. I walked out of the courtroom, defeated but defiant. I was broke, humiliated, and facing a future that seemed as bleak as the storm clouds gathering overhead. But as I looked at the imposing facade of the courthouse, a spark of determination ignited within me. I wouldn't let Daniel win. I wouldn't let them crush me. I would rebuild my life, reclaim my career, and prove them all wrong. With my meager belongings and my 2 bewildered children in tow, I moved back into my childhood home, my mother's quiet suburban house, a stark contrast to the life I'd once known. It was a humbling experience, a fall from grace that left me reeling. But as I looked at the faces of my children, their eyes filled with a confusion that mirrored my own. I knew that I had no choice but to fight. I would dust off my law books, update my resume, and face the daunting task of re-entering a legal world that had moved on without me. It wouldn't be easy. There would be rejections, setbacks, and moments of despair. but I would persevere. I would reclaim my identity, my independence, my power, and I would show Daniel and the world that Claire Donovan was not a woman to be discarded. The stack of rejection letters on my mother's kitchen table grew taller with each passing day. Each crisp envelope, each politely worded dismissal, chipped away at my already fragile confidence. Overqualified, they said. Lack of recent experience. Not a good fit for our current needs. Translation, you're old news, Claire. Go home and bake cookies. I stared at my reflection in the microwave door, the harsh fluorescent light highlighting the dark circles under my eyes, the lines etched by stress and sleepless nights. Was this it? Was I destined to be a footnote in the legal world? A cautionary tale of a woman who sacrificed her career for a marriage that ultimately crumbled? Mom, I said, my voice weary, I don't know how much longer I can keep doing this. It's like hitting my head against a brick wall. My mother, bless her heart, patted my hand with a reassuring smile. Don't give up, sweetheart. You're a brilliant lawyer. Someone will recognize your talent. Her words were meant to be comforting, but they only fueled my frustration. Talent wasn't enough in this cutthroat world. I needed connections, experience, a foot in the door that seemed permanently closed to me. That night, I couldn't sleep. The rejection letters swam before my eyes, their words mocking my efforts. I tossed and turned, the weight of my anxieties pressing down on me like a suffocating blanket. Finally, I gave up. I threw on some clothes, grabbed my keys, and slipped out of the house, the quiet suburban streets a stark contrast to the turmoil in my mind. I drove aimlessly, the hum of the engine a lullaby to my frayed nerves. The rain started as a drizzle, then intensified into a downpour, the windshield wipers struggling to keep up. I turned onto a deserted side street, the headlights cutting through the darkness, illuminating the slick asphalt and the overhanging trees. And then it happened. A flash of headlights in my rearview mirror, a car swerving into my lane, a sickening crunch of metal against metal. My car spun, the world a blur of flashing lights and distorted perspectives. I slammed against the steering wheel, the impact jarring my teeth, a sharp pain exploding in my head. Then, silence. I lay there dazed, my ears ringing, the smell of burnt rubber and gasoline filling the air. The other car, a sleek black sedan, had skidded to a halt a few feet away. A figure emerged, a man in a dark suit, his face contorted with anger. "Are you crazy?" he yelled, his voice distorted by the rain. "What the hell were you thinking?" I tried to speak, but the words wouldn't come. My head throbbed, my vision blurred, my body trembling with shock. "Are you hurt?" the man asked, his anger giving way to a grudging concern. I shook my head, though the movement sent a wave of nausea through me. I couldn't afford a hospital visit, not with my dwindling savings and the mountain of bills piling up. I'm fine, I mumbled, pushing myself out of the car. My legs wobbled, the ground unsteady beneath my feet. "You sure?" the man asked, his eyes scanning me for signs of injury. "Yes," I said, forcing a smile. "Just a little shaken up." He nodded, his gaze still suspicious. "Well, be more careful next time. This could have been a lot worse." He got back into his car and drove away, leaving me standing there in the rain, my car a crumpled wreck, my head pounding, my future uncertain. As I surveyed the damage, a wave of despair washed over me. This was just another setback, another obstacle in my already treacherous path. But as I stood there, the rain washing away the blood and grime, a strange sensation began to creep into my awareness. It was a tingling, a buzzing, a sense of something different. I couldn't quite place it, but it felt like a shift, a change, a subtle alteration in the fabric of my reality. I dismissed it as shock, the after effects of the accident. But as I drove home, my hands gripping the steering wheel with a newfound intensity, I couldn't shake the feeling that something profound had happened, something that would change my life forever. The insistent chirping of my phone dragged me from a restless sleep. I fumbled for it on the nightstand, my head throbbing, my mouth tasting like cotton. It was my mother, her voice laced with concern. "Claire, honey, are you all right? You didn't come home last night? I was worried sick." "I'm fine, Mom," I mumbled, pushing myself up in bed. Just had a late night. Fell asleep at my desk. At your desk? With your clothes on? I glanced down at my rumpled attire, a wave of guilt washing over me. I I must have been really tired. Well, come down for breakfast, she said, her voice softening. I made your favorite pancakes. I dragged myself out of bed, the world tilting precariously around me. The events of the previous night, the accident, the encounter with the angry driver, felt like a distant, unsettling dream. But as I stumbled towards the bathroom, a new sensation pierced through the fog of my headache. It was a voice, a whisper, a thought that wasn't my own. She's lying, the voice said, its tone laced with a cynical amusement. She wasn't at her desk. She was out all night, probably with another man. I froze, my hand hovering over the doorknob. What was that? Who was thinking that? I cautiously opened the bathroom door, my eyes scanning the empty room. No one there. Just the familiar clutter of toiletries and towels, the steam rising from the shower I'd left running. She's a mess, the voice continued, its tone shifting to a critical disdain. Look at her hair, her clothes. She's let herself go. No wonder her husband left her. I stared at my reflection in the mirror, my heart pounding in my chest. The voice was right. My hair was a tangled mess, my clothes wrinkled, my face pale and drawn. But who was judging me? Who was narrating my every move with such scathing commentary? I rushed downstairs, the whispers intensifying with each step. My mother was in the kitchen, humming cheerfully as she flipped pancakes. She's putting on a brave face, the voice said, its tone shifting again, this time to a grudging sympathy. But she's hurting. She's terrified of being alone. I entered the kitchen, forcing a smile. Morning, Mom, I said, my voice a little too bright. There's my girl, she said, placing a plate of pancakes in front of me. Eat up. You need your strength. I picked at the pancakes, my appetite gone, my mind reeling. The voice was relentless, a constant stream of commentary, observations, judgments. It was like having a Greek chorus trapped inside my head, narrating my every move, dissecting my every thought. She's not eating, the voice noted. She's too stressed, worried about the bills, the job hunt, the kids. She's drowning. I pushed the plate away, unable to stomach another bite. I'm not hungry, Mom, I said, my voice trembling. Honey, what's wrong? She asked, her eyes filled with concern. I don't know, I stammered, my gaze darting around the room, searching for the source of the voice. I feel strange. Strange? How do you mean? I think I'm hearing things, I confessed, my voice barely above a whisper. Hearing things? Like what? Like thoughts, I said, the word feeling foreign on my tongue. People's thoughts. I can hear what they're thinking. My mother's brow furrowed. Honey, are you sure you're all right? Maybe you should see a doctor. I'm fine, I insisted, though the conviction in my voice wavered. Just stressed. It's probably just the stress. But deep down, I knew it was more than stress. This was something different, something extraordinary. I could hear thoughts, not just vague impressions, but clear, articulate sentences, the inner monologues of the people around me. I spent the rest of the day testing my newfound ability. I went to the grocery store, eavesdropping on the conversations, the anxieties, the desires of the shoppers. I listened to the cashier's worries about her sick child, the manager's frustration with a lazy employee, the elderly woman's longing for her deceased husband. It was overwhelming, terrifying, exhilarating. I was privy to a hidden world, a world of secret thoughts and unspoken emotions. It was like having access to a cheat sheet for life, a key to understanding the motivations, the vulnerabilities, the hidden agendas of everyone around me. And as I walked home, the setting sun painting the sky in hues of orange and purple, a realization dawned. This wasn't a curse, it was a gift that could change my life, my career, my future. I could use this ability to my advantage, to navigate the treacherous waters of the legal world, to expose lies, to uncover truths, to win cases that seemed impossible. A mix of fear and excitement coursed through me. I was stepping into uncharted territory, a world where the rules were different, where the boundaries between the mind and reality were blurred. But as I looked at the familiar houses lining the street, their windows glowing with the warmth of family life, I knew that I was ready for the challenge. I was ready to embrace my new reality, to harness the power of my mind, to become the lawyer I was always meant to be. The law firm of Peterson, Davies, and Stern was a world away from the gleaming towers of my ex-husband's corporate haven. Their offices were nestled in a nondescript building, the decor a tasteful blend of traditional and modern, a subtle hint of we're successful but not flashy. Mr. Peterson, the senior partner, was a man who exuded an air of quiet authority. His silver hair was impeccably groomed, his suit tailored to within an inch of its life. He sat across from me, his expression unreadable, his eyes assessing me with a shrewdness that would have intimidated the old Claire. The new Claire, however, had an ace up her sleeve. "Mrs. Harrington," he began, his voice smooth as polished mahogany, "your resume is impressive. But it's been a while since you've practiced law, hasn't it? He doesn't believe I can cut it anymore," I heard his thoughts echo in my mind. "Thinks I'm a washed-up housewife, trading on past glories." "Indeed, Mr. Peterson," I said, my voice calm, my smile confident. "But the law is like riding a bicycle. The fundamentals remain the same. And I'm a fast learner." He raised an eyebrow, a flicker of surprise crossing his face. "Sharp?" I heard him think. "Sharper than I expected." "Tell me, Mrs. Harrington," he continued, leaning back in his chair, "why should we take a chance on you? We have a pool of highly qualified candidates, all with recent experience in the field." "He's looking for an excuse to dismiss me," I noted, his insecurity about hiring a has-been, radiating like a beacon. He needs reassurance, a demonstration of my unique abilities. "Mr. Peterson," I said, my voice taking on a persuasive edge, "I understand your concerns, but I offer something that none of your other candidates can. I have an intuitive grasp of legal strategy, a knack for anticipating my opponent's moves, a talent for uncovering hidden truths." He leaned forward, intrigued. "Intriguing," I heard him think. "But is it just talk? Can you give me an example?" he asked, his eyes narrowing. "Certainly," I said, my smile widening. "Let's say hypothetically that you're representing a client in a breach of contract case. Your opponent, a seasoned litigator, is known for his aggressive tactics and his ability to sway a jury. He's confident, arrogant, but also insecure. He's terrified of losing, of tarnishing his reputation." Mr. Peterson's eyes widened. How did she know that? He wondered, his thoughts a mixture of astonishment and suspicion. "Now," I continued, my voice taking on a hypnotic rhythm, "imagine you're in the courtroom." He launches into a passionate argument citing precedents, weaving a compelling narrative. The jury is captivated, but you see through his facade. You sense his insecurity, his desperation, and you exploit it. You expose his weaknesses, dismantle his arguments, turn his own tactics against him. Mr. Peterson was speechless. He stared at me, his mind racing, trying to comprehend how I could possibly know such intimate details about his opponent. "She's incredible," he thought, his skepticism melting away. "She's exactly what this firm needs." "Mrs. Harrington," he said, his voice filled with a newfound respect, "I'm impressed. You have a unique perspective, a gift, one might say. I prefer to call it intuition," I said, my smile enigmatic. "Intuition, then," he agreed, a glint of admiration in his eyes. "Well, Mrs. Harrington, I believe we can find a place for your intuition at Peterson, Davis & Stern." And just like that, I was in. The interview that was supposed to be another demoralizing rejection had turned into a triumph. I had used my newfound ability to not only secure a job, but to impress a seasoned lawyer, a man who had seen it all. As I walked out of the office, the city streets buzzing with the energy of 1,000 ambitions, I felt a surge of exhilaration. This was just the beginning. I had a foot in the door, a platform to showcase my skills, my intuition, and I knew, with a certainty that went beyond confidence, that I was about to make waves in the legal world. The game had changed, and I was holding all the cards. The courtroom became my stage, the opposing counsel my unwitting puppets. My first case at Peterson, Davies and Stern, was a seemingly straightforward breach of contract dispute. My opponent, a slick lawyer with a reputation for intimidation tactics, thought he had me cornered. He didn't know I was reading his every thought. "Mrs. Harrington," he sneered, his voice dripping with condescension. "Surely you're not suggesting that my client, a reputable businessman, would intentionally deceive your client." "She's bluffing," I heard him think, his smugness radiating like a bad cologne. "She has no evidence, no leverage. I'll break her with this line of questioning." "On the contrary, Mr. Evans," I said, my voice calm, my smile unwavering. "I have ample evidence to suggest that your client not only intentionally deceived my client, but did so with malicious intent." I paused, letting the weight of my words sink in. He blustered, trying to regain control, but I was already one step ahead. "In fact," I continued, my voice taking on a prosecutorial edge, "I believe your client is currently thinking about the offshore account he used to hide the funds, the account he conveniently forgot to mention during discovery." Mr. Evans' face paled. His thoughts were a whirlwind of panic and disbelief. How did she know? He wondered, his carefully constructed facade crumbling. The jury, sensing the shift in power, leaned forward, their eyes glued to the unfolding drama. I pressed my advantage, exposing his client's lies, dismantling his arguments with surgical precision. By the time I was finished, Mr. Evans was a defeated man, his reputation tarnished, his client facing a hefty judgment. Word of my victory spread like wildfire. The mind reader of the courtroom, they called me, my ability to anticipate arguments and expose hidden truths becoming legendary. Clients, once hesitant to trust a lawyer with a gap in her resume, now clamored for my services. CEOs, celebrities, politicians, they all wanted the woman who could see through their opponents' facades, the lawyer who was guaranteed to win. My caseload exploded. I juggled corporate espionage cases, intellectual property disputes, even a high-stakes divorce involving a Russian oligarch and his trophy wife. Each case was a challenge, a test of my abilities, but also an opportunity to hone my skills, to refine my strategy, to become the ultimate legal weapon. "Claire," Mr. Peterson said one afternoon, his voice filled with a mixture of awe and gratitude, "you're a phenomenon. You've single-handedly revitalized this firm. Clients are lining up at the door, begging for your representation." I smiled, accepting his praise with a quiet confidence. "It's just intuition, Mr. Peterson." He chuckled, shaking his head. "Intuition? That's one way to put it. Whatever it is, it's working. You're a force of nature, Claire. A rising star. Like." And he was right. My career trajectory was a rocket launch, my reputation soaring higher with each victory. I was no longer the discarded housewife, the woman with no real skills. I was Claire Harrington, the legal eagle, the mind reader, the woman who could win any case against any odds. The power was intoxicating, the thrill of victory addictive. But beneath the surface, a deeper satisfaction took root. I wasn't just winning cases, I was fighting for justice, exposing lies, and holding the powerful accountable. And as I stood in the courtroom, the eyes of the jury fixed on me, I knew that I had found my true calling, a calling that transcended ambition and revenge, a calling that empowered me to use my unique gift to make a real difference in the world. The file landed on my desk with a thud, its thickness a testament to the complexity of the case. "The State of California versus OmniCorp," the cover sheet proclaimed, the bold letters a stark reminder of the high stakes involved. "This is it, Claire," Mr. Peterson said, his voice a mix of excitement and apprehension. "The case that could make or break your career." OmniCorp, a tech giant with tentacles in every aspect of society, was being accused of anti-competitive practices, of manipulating markets, of crushing smaller competitors with ruthless efficiency. It was a David versus Goliath battle, with me, the newly minted legal star, cast as the underdog. "They've got an army of lawyers, Claire," Mr. Davies warned, his usual jovial demeanor replaced by a grim seriousness. "The best money can buy. They'll bury you in paperwork, stall you with motions, and attack your reputation with every dirty trick in the book. And they'll underestimate you," Mr. Stern added, his eyes twinkling with a mischievous glint. "They'll see you as a newcomer, A flash in the pan. They won't know what hit them. I ran my fingers over the file, the embossed letters, a tangible reminder of the challenge ahead. This wasn't just another case. It was a crusade, a battle against corporate greed and corruption, and I, the woman they'd dismissed as a has-been, was the one standing in their way. The skepticism was palpable. The legal world, a bastion of tradition and hierarchy, was abuzz with whispers. She's in over her head, they said. She's bitten off more than she can chew. She'll crash and burn. But their doubts only fueled my determination. I wasn't afraid of OmniCorp, of their lawyers, of their ruthless tactics. I had a weapon they couldn't anticipate, a secret advantage that would level the playing field. I could hear their thoughts. I spent weeks poring over the case files, immersing myself in the intricacies of antitrust law, the complexities of corporate finance, the nuances of legal strategy. But my real advantage lay not in the documents, but in the minds of my opponents. I attended their depositions, my eyes fixed on their faces, my mind attuned to their inner monologues. I listened to their carefully crafted answers, their rehearsed denials, their subtle attempts to obfuscate the truth. And beneath the surface, I heard their doubts, their fears, their carefully guarded secrets. She's good, I heard their lead counsel, a seasoned veteran named Mr. Caldwell, think. Too good. But she's still a novice. I'll exploit her inexperience, wear her down with delays and distractions. This case is a gold mine, thought Miss Sinclair, their financial expert, her greed radiating like a beacon. OmniCorp will pay a fortune to keep this quiet. I'll milk them for every penny. I can't afford to lose this, worried Mr. Evans, the junior associate, his anxiety palpable. If this case goes south, my career is over. Their thoughts were a roadmap, a guide to their strategies, their weaknesses, their vulnerabilities. I knew their arguments before they made them, their tactics before they deployed them, their fears before they voiced them. And as I prepared for the trial, the courtroom looming in my mind's eye, I felt a surge of confidence, a certainty that I was more than ready for this challenge. I wasn't just a lawyer, I was a mind reader, a strategist, a warrior armed with an invisible weapon, and I was about to take on OmniCorp, their army of lawyers, and their carefully constructed facade of corporate invincibility. The game was on, and I was playing to win. The courtroom felt charged, the air thick with anticipation. On one side, the titans of OmniCorp, their lawyers, a formidable wall of silk suits and icy glares. On the other side, me, David versus Goliath, with a twist. I had a secret weapon, Mr. Caldwell, OmniCorp's lead counsel, a man who could make a potted plant confess, rose to his feet. Your Honor, he boomed, his voice a thunderclap in the hushed courtroom. My client denies all allegations of wrongdoing. These accusations are baseless, a desperate attempt to smear the reputation of a respected corporation. He's trying to intimidate the jury, I heard him think, establish dominance from the outset. I smiled inwardly. He was playing right into my hands. Mr. Caldwell, I began, my voice calm and measured, speaks of reputation. But what about the reputation of the countless small businesses crushed by OmniCorp's predatory tactics? What about the innovation stifled, the dreams destroyed? She's good, he thought, a flicker of unease in his eyes. She's not just reciting memorized lines. He speaks of respect for the law, I continued, my voice rising, while his client flagrantly disregards it. He speaks of fair competition, while his client engages in underhanded tactics, manipulating markets, crushing their rivals. His composure began to crack. She knows too much, he thought, panic rising in his voice. How does she know this? How does she anticipate my every move? I pressed my advantage. I exposed the inconsistencies in his arguments, dismantled his carefully constructed facade, and laid bare the truth of OmniCorp's ruthless ambition. The jury, initially swayed by Mr. Caldwell's confident demeanor, began to shift, their eyes drawn to me, captivated by my eloquence, my unwavering conviction. Mr. Caldwell, flustered and desperate, resorted to desperate tactics, trying to intimidate me with irrelevant accusations, to throw me off balance with personal attacks. But I remained calm, unyielding. I knew his every move before he made it, his thoughts laid bare for me to dissect and exploit. The courtroom was a battleground, a silent duel of wills, a clash of intellect and intuition. And as the trial progressed, it became clear that I held the upper hand. Mr. Caldwell, the seasoned veteran, the courtroom gladiator, was floundering, his confidence shattered, his reputation on the line. And as I watched him unravel, his carefully constructed persona crumbling before my eyes, I felt a surge of power, a sense of exhilaration I'd never experienced before. This was my victory, a victory built on more than just legal acumen. It was a victory of the mind, a testament to the power of intuition, the ability to see beyond the surface, to read the thoughts, the fears, the hidden agendas of my opponents. The game had changed, and I was winning. The gavel fell, its sharp crack echoing through the hushed courtroom. "In favor of the plaintiff," the judge declared, his voice devoid of emotion, a mere formality in the face of the seismic shift that had just occurred. A collective gasp rippled through the gallery. The reporters, their fingers flying across their keyboards, scrambled to capture the moment, the impossible victory, the downfall of a titan. OmniCorp's legal team sat stunned, their faces pale, their carefully constructed arguments shattered into a million pieces. I allowed myself a small, private smile. It wasn't just a win, it was a landslide. A victory that defied expectations, that shook the foundations of the legal world. David had slain Goliath, and I, the woman they'd underestimated, the discarded housewife, was the one who had wielded the slingshot. The courtroom erupted in chaos. Reporters swarmed me, their questions a barrage of microphones and flashing cameras. My colleagues, their initial skepticism replaced by a stunned admiration, rushed to congratulate me, their voices a chorus of praise and disbelief. I stood there, amidst the whirlwind, a sense of calm settling over me. This wasn't just about winning, it was about justice, about holding a powerful corporation accountable for its actions, about protecting the little guy, about proving that even the most formidable opponent could be brought down. As the crowd dispersed, the courtroom emptying, I allowed myself a moment of quiet reflection. This victory was more than just a career milestone. It was a personal triumph. It was a testament to my resilience, my determination, my refusal to be defined by the labels others had placed upon me. I did it, I thought, a surge of pride swelling within me. I proved them all wrong. I showed them that Claire Harrington is not a woman to be underestimated. But the victory wasn't just about proving others wrong. It was about proving myself right. It was about reclaiming my identity, my power, my place in the world. It was about embracing the woman I had become, a woman who was not only brilliant and capable, but also fearless and determined. And as I walked out of the courtroom, the city lights reflecting in my eyes, I felt a new ambition taking root. This wasn't the end. It was just the beginning. I had tasted victory, and I was hungry for more. I wanted to take on bigger challenges, fight for greater causes, use my unique gift to make a real difference in the world. The legal landscape had shifted. I was no longer just a lawyer. I was a force to be reckoned with, a woman who could see through lies, anticipate strategies, and dismantle the most carefully constructed facades. And as I looked out at the sprawling cityscape, a symbol of power and ambition, I knew that I was ready to climb higher, to reach for the top, to become the queen of my own domain. The sleek black car with tinted windows pulled up outside my mother's modest house, its presence an anomaly in the quiet suburban street. A man in a perfectly tailored suit emerged, his smile polished, his eyes assessing. "Mrs. Harrington?" he inquired, his voice smooth as silk. "Yes," I replied, my curiosity piqued. "My name is Mr. Blackwood," he said, extending a hand. "I'm a senior partner at Carlyle, Blackwood & Grant. We'd like to offer you a position at our firm." Carlyle, Blackwood & Grant. The name resonated with power, prestige, the pinnacle of the legal world. It was the firm Daniel had always dreamed of joining, the firm that had rejected him, the firm that was now courting me. "A position?" I echoed, my voice carefully neutral, though my mind was racing. "A senior partnership, Mrs. Harrington," he clarified, his smile widening. "We've been following your career with great interest. Your recent victory against OmniCorp was remarkable. We believe your talents would be a valuable asset to our firm." I didn't hesitate. This was the opportunity I'd been waiting for, the chance to reach the top, to solidify my position as a force to be reckoned with. It was a chance to prove to Daniel, to the world, that I was more than just a discarded wife, a has-been lawyer. I accept, I said, my voice firm, my smile confident. Mr. Blackwood's smile broadened. Excellent, Mrs. Harrington. We're delighted to have you on board. I assure you, you won't regret this decision. He handed me a sleek folder, its embossed lettering proclaiming the firm's name. Inside, the details of my partnership agreement, the compensation package, the perks and privileges that came with being one of the elite. As I skimmed the document, my mind raced with possibilities. This wasn't just a job, it was a power move, a strategic maneuver in the game of life. I was entering the big leagues, the world of high-stakes litigation, where fortunes were won and lost, where reputations were made and broken. And I, the woman who had once been dismissed as a stay-at-home wife with no real skills, was about to become a major player in that world. The next few days were a whirlwind of activity. I said goodbye to my colleagues at Peterson, Davies, and Stern, their congratulations tinged with a hint of envy. I packed up my meager belongings, the remnants of my old life fading into the background as I prepared to embrace a new chapter. And as I stood on the threshold of my new office, the city skyline spread out before me like a tapestry of ambition and power. I felt a surge of exhilaration. This was my moment, my chance to shine, to prove to myself and to the world that Claire Harrington was a force to be reckoned with. The game was on, and I was ready to play. The corner office was everything I'd ever imagined, and more. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a panoramic view of the city, the sprawling metropolis, a testament to ambition and achievement. The furnishings were sleek, modern, with an understated elegance that spoke of power and influence. This wasn't just an office, it was a throne room, a symbol of my ascension to the top of the legal food chain. I surveyed my domain, a satisfied smile playing on my lips. The nameplate on the desk gleamed, the engraved letters proclaiming my new title, Claire Harrington, Senior Partner. It was a title I'd earned, a testament to my talent, my resilience, my unique ability to navigate the complexities of the legal world. A knock on the door interrupted my reverie. "Come in," I said, my voice echoing in the spacious office. The door opened, and a figure stepped in. Daniel, my ex-husband, the man who had discarded me, who had belittled my abilities, who had tried to crush me under the weight of his ambition. He looked different, older somehow. The lines around his eyes were deeper, his smile less confident. The expensive suit couldn't disguise the weariness in his posture, the flicker of uncertainty in his eyes. "Claire," he said, his voice a mixture of surprise and something else. Regret? Envy? It was hard to tell. "Daniel," I replied, my voice cool, my expression unreadable. He cleared his throat, his gaze darting around the office, taking in the symbols of my success. I didn't know you were joining the firm." "It was a recent decision," I said, my smile enigmatic. "A senior partner?" he murmured, his voice tinged with a hint of disbelief. "Congratulations." "Thank you," I said, my tone devoid of warmth. He shifted uncomfortably, his eyes finally meeting mine. I wanted to apologize, Claire, for the way I treated you, for the things I said during the divorce." "Apologies are a bit late, don't you think?" I asked, my voice laced with a touch of bitterness. He winced, his face flushing with shame. "I know," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. I was an idiot. I let my ambition blind me. I never appreciated you, your talent, your sacrifices." I studied him, my mind sifting through his thoughts, his emotions. There was genuine remorse there, a flicker of regret for the path he had chosen. But there was also something else, a hint of desperation, a realization that he had made a grave mistake. "You're right," I said, my voice softening slightly. "You were an idiot. But that's the past, Daniel. We've both moved on." He looked at me, his eyes pleading. "Have you, Claire? Truly?" I met his gaze, my smile a mixture of amusement and triumph. "Yes, Daniel, I have. I've built a life for myself, a career that fulfills me, a future that's brighter than anything I could have imagined with you." He looked away, his shoulders slumping with defeat. "I see," he said, his voice hollow. I leaned back in my chair, savoring the moment. The reversal of fortunes, The man who had discarded me, who had thought he could control my destiny, was now standing before me, humbled, diminished, his own career overshadowed by mine. "It's ironic, isn't it?" I said, my voice laced with a touch of mockery. "You left me for a woman with connections, a woman who could open doors for you. And now, here I am, a senior partner at the very firm that rejected you while well, let's just say you're not exactly at the top of your game." He flinched, his pride wounded. "I'm doing fine," he mumbled, though the conviction in his voice was weak. "Are you, Daniel?" I asked, my smile widening. "Or are you just clinging to the coattails of your wealthy wife, living in her shadow, your own ambitions fading with each passing day?" His silence was answer enough. I had hit a nerve, exposed the insecurity that gnawed at him, the realization that he had traded his own dreams for a gilded cage. I stood up, my gaze fixed on his. "You made your choices, Daniel," I said, my voice firm. "And now you have to live with the consequences. As for me, I'm done looking back. I have a future to build, a legacy to create, and I won't let anything or anyone stand in my way." I turned and walked towards the window, the city lights twinkling below, a symbol of the possibilities that lay before me. I had come a long way from the discarded housewife, the woman with no real skills. I was Claire Harrington, the queen of the courtroom, the master of my own destiny. And as I looked out at the vast expanse of the city, I knew that my reign had just begun.